just like if you're familiar with NetBeans, usually you would have a file structure down here and the actual file opened in this window here. So this is my NetBeans style of design. Alright, so you can see that pretty much the main file, this is where the program actually starts. It starts looking for this method inside the class called program. So this is the class program and this is the main method. This is the entry point for the application, as it says here in the comment. And as you can see, it says enable visual styles and run all these things, right? So this is all it is. This is the whole program. It's just these few lines. It's not a lot. However, there is more to it. What we're going to do next is we're going to create a class. Now to do that, it's actually very simple. You can do it in so many different ways, but I'm going to select the actual application name that we've got, and then we're going to click right like that and say we're just going to click on Intel Cal, right click on that, add, and as you can see it's got a class here. So we're going to create a new class. What we're going to call the class, let's call it something meaningful like calc maybe, and this type of class. I can create different things. I can create another form, user control, different stuff. We're not going to explore that in this tutorial, but we're going to look at some of the basics here that we're going to require to perform the task. So I'm going to say add, and it's put it here. I want to move it down to here actually. Okay, so this is the basics of structure for the class. So you do that. It's got you the class calc, which is the same name as the file. Right, so if you're familiar with object-oriented programming, you know that a class is made up with attributes and methods, properties and methods, whatever you want to call it, functions and methods, data types, variables and functions, whatever you want to call it. It's basically made up of these two components, and that's the first rule of object-oriented programming, is encapsulation. So we're doing that. We're not going to be inheriting anything right now, but if we did want to inherit, it's basically one of those, and then we can click on the file, whatever class name, for example. Okay, but we're not going to inherit anything in this lesson. Okay, so what I do want to do is I want to think just a little bit. What sort of properties would we need in this calculator? We might want to actually count. Once we're reading the file, we want to actually count how many lines is in the file, how many words is in the file, that kind of stuff. So we can do that by creating a few variables. Now a variable is just basically a box, but we have to give that box a type. So that first variable I'm going to create, I'm going to call it line count, and the whole objective of that is to record or to keep a record of the number of lines that we have in the file, and that will change obviously as the file grows or we add a different file, that kind of stuff. We always keep a count of the number of lines in the file, and we might want to keep a count of number of words, so we can actually get an idea of the size of the file, as in words, right? So we've got those two out of the way, and these ints is actually a primitive data type, so it's not anything special. It's very primitive. It's just basic. You've got different types. You've got maybe a float, different things that we can actually use. However, I'm just going to use integers, and integers, just quickly, just to give you an idea, integers are whole numbers like 1, 2 and 3, if you don't know that, and float numbers are decimal point numbers, right? So it's like 1.0, that kind of stuff, 1.2, anything like that. Okay, so these are floats, but we're not going to use floats in this example. And every time you see me do this is just basically a comment, and that's ignored by the application. If I do one of those, that's just basically a whole long comment block. We're not going to use that either, so we could just delete all these things. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of those dynamic data types, which is a string. A string is basically a collection of characters. So a character is like A, B, abstract A, B, C. But we want to actually store words, actual words, or a string of words, or a whole sentence, or the whole file inside the array, that kind of stuff. But we don't want it just to store it as just a normal string. We want to store it in a string, an array string. So we're doing strings, and we're doing an array of type string. What I'm going to do is I want to store the lines, line by line. Each line in the file, I want to store it in an array. So I'm going to say string. This is the way to do an array. You just put these square boxes, and that basically says that it's a string array, and I'm going to call that line. The next thing I want to do is I want to maybe something initially